Welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and we're inside today. April wrap up. April was a very weird reading month. I have three DNFs. One hard, one soft, one at 97%. So I'm actually going to talk about the 97% when I talk about completed books. I read a lot this month, but not, if you look at the pile, it doesn't look like a lot. So let's talk about the DNFs first. First up would be the first book in the Wingfeather saga, and it's right here. Can never remember the title. Something about the edge of the dark sea of darkness. I got about halfway through this audiobook. Got it from my library, and I was bored to tears. The audiobook was incredibly frustrating. Constant interruptions to go check out the PDF version of the book and turn to this map, or it was incredibly frustrating. I was incredibly bored with storyline, and I was listening at like 2.5 times speed, which is way faster than normal, and I was still bored to tears. So I just DNF'd it and returned it so somebody else could read it. And that's okay. That's a hard DNF. Soft DNF is Major Pettigrew's Last Stand by Helen Simonson. I just wasn't in the mood. There's actually nothing wrong with the writing. There's nothing wrong with the storytelling. I hit like 75 pages or so. Everything was fine about the book. I just wasn't in the mood for the story it was telling at the time I read it. So, soft DNF. I will pick it up again later. I am quite sure. So, okay. Those are all of the DNFs. So let's talk about what I did read. And first up, we're going to do the 97% DNF book. Right on my Kindle. That is The Puzzle Master by Danielle Trussoni. It's the first book in the series, and it's the Puzzle Box, not the Puzzle Master. It's the Puzzle Box. And I owned the second book in the series, which is The Puzzle Master. I picked this up from my library for $1, and it's going straight back to my library bookshop. And glad I only spent $1 on it. So let's talk about why I DNF'd this book at 97%. This book starts out strong. It was actually a grok recommendation in my AI video, which I will link down below. It is twisty and turny, fast-paced mystery action story about this sudden acquired savant syndrome protagonist who has the ability to solve and create puzzles very quickly, intricate puzzles. It doesn't matter. He can always see the answer, right? So this psychologist at a women's prison contacts him and says that she has a patient who never speaks but wants to meet him, and could he please come to the prison? He goes. He's presented with this incredibly complex puzzle that he cannot immediately solve, and thus the story begins. It is filled with ancient Jewish lore and history. There's flashbacks to the early 1900s. There is a murder that the prisoner is in prison for, and he's beginning to suspect that she didn't do it. Now, I quickly figured out that the prisoner wasn't responsible for the killing. I was completely invested in the story. It was not a quick read. It was so intricate that it kept me so engaged. It was not a fast-paced read despite short, punchy chapters, because my brain was thinking the whole time through. And it takes place in New York. You go to upstate New York, you know, flashbacks are in Europe. You go to the JP Morgan Library in New York City as part of it. So it's a very well-written book. Except he solves the puzzle at 97%, which is right about when you would expect the solution to happen. And I immediately DNF'd the book, deleted it off my Kindle permanently, and had my Kindle not acted up and deleted all of my downloaded books right before that happened. I would have thrown my Kindle across the room. I was that angry. What happens at 97%, you're wondering? Oh, the solution to this ancient Jewish puzzle is that God is non-binary. I was done. Do not recommend. I will not read anything else by her under her new, under pen names, anything else. If it's remotely related to her, I'm not reading it. I'm not reading it. There was no hint of nonsense in that 97%. Not a single whiff. And then avoid at all costs. That's all I have to say. Avoid at all costs. Also on my Kindle, I read Mine is the Night by Alex Wagner. This was an ad that got pushed to me through Facebook for a Catholic thriller. It was on Kindle Unlimited. I said, sure, why not give it a try? It is set in Italy. Italy? No, not Italy. Austria. And our protagonist is a Catholic priest. And this is the first book in the series, by the way. And in the past, he has gotten involved in solving crimes and helping the police. And he is struggling to let that desire go. He keeps reminding himself as the book opens that he is not Father Brown. And it's not his place to be involved in such activities. As you can imagine, that's the setup. And sure enough, he comes downstairs, and in the crypt to his church, he discovers a dead woman. Not only is she dead, she's decapitated. And thus begins the story. It was fantastic. It read quickly. It had good, relatively brief chapters that were impactful. You have multiple points of view. The action really never lets up, and the mystery itself is nice and twisty and tight, and it was just a fantastic read. There is some Catholic theology in this book. Our priest is the pastor at St. Martin de Tours, and while all this is going on, St. Martin appears to him and tells him he should walk this path. I don't want to say too much, because if you're going to pick it up, it is absolutely fantastic. Is it filled with Catholic theology, like from cover to cover? No, it is not. Is there some in there? Absolutely there is. But it is not a theological or faith-heavy book. It is, however, completely wonderful. I have the second book downloaded on my Kindle, and am looking forward to starting that. So Yay for a new Catholic series. I am always happy about that. Okay, next up, I actually did finish The Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly. I own the next 2 books in the series, and this series follows the Faraday family backwards through time. So this one takes place slightly before, during, and after World War II. And we follow 3 women. Caroline Faraday, who is a New York socialite. Herta Ostenhauser, who is a German doctor. And Kasia, who is a Polish teenager. You get all 3 perspectives throughout the book. And you are clearly not intended to like the character of Herta. Caroline is not a sympathetic character, in my opinion. As the book opens up, she's carrying on what she knows is an affair with a married man. She has no intention of giving him up. He has no intention of, divorcing his wife, despite what he says. He has a child with her. Kasia is a Polish teenager who, she lives in the city with the post office. You know what I'm talking about if you know your World War II Polish history, and the name has just escaped me. Anyway, she is in the resistance, and Lublin. She lives in Lublin, Poland. This book hits hard, but it isn't dealing with battles. It's dealing with what these 3 women are going through very differently. Caroline is very obsessed with her French orphanage charity she runs in New York. Herta thinks her only path forward is to go to work for the Nazis in a concentration camp. And Kasia is sent to that very same concentration camp. It happens to be Ravensbrück, which, if you don't know, a lot of the medical experimentation took place at that concentration camp on women in particular. It is a very heavy read. It is a very it isn't hopeful. It isn't. It's important to read it, but it isn't a book in which any character said, root for me. Like, you root for Kasia, obviously, because, where she ends up during the war and her life after the war. But at the same time, she's not terribly sympathetic. Caroline is a self-obsessed, even though she's highly involved in charity, she cannot give up the married man in her life. And Herta is an example to us all. Caroline and Herta were actual people who lived actual lives. And Kasia is a combination of 2 Polish sisters from Lublin. I highly recommend it, but for me, it was just a 3.5 read. I'm more interested in the other 2 books that are sitting on my shelves. The writing was excellent. The storytelling was excellent. It's just some of it was incredibly difficult to read, and you would have to set it aside for a while and go read something much lighter on your plate before continuing, because there's only so much revulsion and frustration and sorrow a soul can take before they need to set a book aside. So that is Lilac Girls. And next up, I did finish The Wreath, which is the first book in the Christian Lavensdottir trilogy. And this follows Christine Lavensdottir, sorry. And book starts off, she's 7, sorry. And the book ends, she's 21 or 22. And, you know, it opens up, she's riding with her father, she's, you know, seeing elf fairies in the forest. It's very sweet, it's very Norwegian, it's very pastoral. Her father is lower nobility. She, you know, you watch her parents have children and bury them. She is engaged to one man. She's sent to a convent. She breaks that engagement to marry this other man her father definitely does not disapprove of. And while she's at the convent, she engages in some very un-Catholic behavior. But it just goes to show you that the human soul has always been broken and has always engaged in sin knowingly because of love. And eventually she gets to marry the man she sinned with, and that's how the book concludes. Now, it's definitely a Catholic book. It's definitely a Catholic classic. I'm very much looking forward to the next book, which is The Wife. And I'm incredibly interested on how her marriage with this man who is older than her, had a long-term mistress that he got excommunicated from the church for. They had kids together, the whole 9 yards. So I'm very interested. And once the storyline picked up, it moved very quickly. So I'm very glad that Madeline over at Cozy Cottage Chapters turned me on to Kristen Lavensdottir, because I don't know that I would have naturally gravitated to it on my own, and I enjoyed what I read very much. So that is Kristen Lavensdottir, book 1. Did I say it was The Wreath? Book 1 is The Wreath. Okay, what else did I read? Okay, this is the last book I read this month, but it's not the last book I'm going to talk about. This is A Year of Wonders by Geraldine Brooks. It was my first book by her. And this concerns, it's a fictionalized telling of a real life English village in, when plague came, the village of Eyam. And their decision to close the borders of their village to contain the plague therein. So, 1666 London, or not London, Eyam. This was a very thought-provoking book about how things may have played out in the village of Eyam. Some of the characters were actual, most of the characters were fictional. Our main protagonist in the book is, I've forgotten her name. What is her name? Anna. Her name's Anna. And as the book opens up, Anna is married to a lead miner in town, and he dies. They have 2 kids. She takes in a boarder who is a tailor, and through the tailor, plague enters the town. Story starts from there. Anna has picked up work with the local vicar and his wife as a maid to supplement her income. And the entire parish, Puritans, show up to the Anglican Church to take this vote for the town to shut the town borders, as it's apparent that the town is infested with plague. And so they make a deal with the Earl that controls, the village, and he's agreed to provide services if they agree to stay within their borders while plague is running rampant. Everybody says yes. And what you see happen is just character after character dying. They accuse the only two midwives and the apothecary in town of being witches, and they're murdered. People die of plague. The vicar's wife takes over with Anna as midwife, and they try to, relearn a vast amount of herbal knowledge that died with the alleged witches. You see grief and hysteria take over the town. People claim that I don't want to spoil the story. It is definitely worth reading, and it's made me curious about her other books. Was it a 5-star? I don't think it was a 5-star for me, actually. I think it was more like a 3.5, 4. I very much enjoyed it, but there were certain parts of it I just didn't like. The ending was horrible. I don't like the ending at all. It ruined the rest of the book for me, if I'm honest. And I can't tell you what happens, because if I do, I will spoil the book. Just know, truly hated the ending. However, the writing was beautiful, and the storytelling was there. Just the ending was so frustrating. And yet, the book was filled with characters doing something out of love and hope for the surrounding villages. So it's a very good book. Just know that the ending is horrific, in my opinion. Okay, last book I read. The last book I read was also on my Kindle. That is Walking the Bible by Bruce Feiler. And this is nonfiction. It is the first 5 books of the Bible. And as the book opens up, it's written in this impeccable, very conversational tone all the way throughout. This is not dry biblical nonfiction. This is completely approachable, completely relatable. And it was published in 2005, I believe. And it is politically accurate for that time. And as the book opens up, you very quickly understand that the author is a secular Jew. He is clearly not practicing. He is clearly Jewish by birth. And yet, he's curious. He goes to Israel. He meets this wonderful 70-year-old archaeologist named Avner, and they agree to together go explore the 5 books of the Bible. And their first stop is in Turkey. Their last stop, can't remember if it's Jordan or Israel. I believe it's Jordan. And they go to Egypt and Israel several times, and they just take you through the books. And over the course of the book, it's 400 odd pages, you see the author regaining his faith and finding his connection to those 5 books of the Bible and marveling how much things stay the same even over thousands of years. You get a walk through history, you get a walk through the text, you get current day politics. It takes you to places you will probably never go in your lifetime. There's a Greek, I believe it's Greek. Yeah, it's a Greek monastery. There, they go to several parts in Egypt. They wander around the Sinai. They climb mountains. It is a fabulous read. It's broken up into 5 parts. One for each book of the Bible, obviously. And they talk to regular people along the way, not just academics, not just political leaders, but just, the taxi cab drivers and people they meet in cafes. And, he describes the food they're eating along the way. Like, I didn't expect so much tuna in the Middle East, and yet it's everywhere in the story. It was fascinating. I will read another book by him. My library has several. It was a great Jewish secular perspective on those books, and it does not end on that same secular note. It is very much a coming to faith journey, and it was beautiful. And yes, it took me a couple of months to read because I would pick it up here or there, and I was good with that because it let the parts I read sink in. And some of the descriptions are just beautiful. What night looks like in the deep desert, what dawn looks like in the deep desert, the importance of water, and why oases and small settlements are built where they are in the desert. And it's a gorgeous book, and I highly recommend it. If you're even remotely interested, it's an okay read on Kindle. However, do yourself a favor. If you see it out in public, new, used, in good condition, pick it up so you can tab it at home. It's that good of a read, in my opinion. So that, I believe, is everything I read in the month of April. Or I should say, everything I finished in the month of April. Because I did make progress in Exodus, the Archimedes Engine by Peter F. Hamilton. The second book on the duology is coming out June or July of this year, so I need to finish. I am now just before 300, and it's just shy of 900 pages, so maybe I can finish it this month. We shall see. However, it's amazing world building, and we have finally gotten from the world building to the meat of the story. Easily the first 250 pages of this book is pure world building, where humanity is in space, the different, the structures, and it is fascinating. And my very first book tea with Tammy video, I mentioned John's video about the interview with Christopher Rocchio and faith in science fiction. There is so much faith in this book. The highest tier of civilization in this book is a people known as the Elohim. The means of interstellar navigation is through something called the Gates of Heaven. There is faith scattered throughout this book. Will it be recognizable to someone as Christian faith or Jewish faith or, an earth-based faith? Absolutely not. The names are there, but they're very different in meaning, but there is still faith in this book. And don't know how it's going to continue to play out over the next, 600 pages, but I am very much here for it. Very, very much here for it. So, okay. That's everything I read in April. What did you read in April? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.